All right. So thank you everyone for being here. For the students who don't know me, my name is Ashley Dwyer and I'm the Director of Career Services and Employer Relations here at Rockefeller College. In a moment, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Christina to get started, and then I'll kick it back to me and I'll start with the questions. So we're really fortunate to have a few different representatives here from the nonprofit think tank kind of space to talk about careers in those industries, in those fields. So I'm going to be asking, a series of different questions to our panelists to give us some insight and their perspective through their experiences. And then there will be time at the end for sure to ask any questions. So hang on to your questions for the end, or you can also put them into the chat. So I'm going to pass it over to Christina to introduce herself from our office, and then I'll get started with the questions.
All right. Well, thanks, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Cardona, and I'm the coordinator for internships and career programming for Rockefeller.
Thanks, Christina. So to start with our first question, and anyone is welcome to start, so I won't call on you guys, whoever's interested in starting first. But can you introduce yourselves and share a bit about your current role in your organization? What inspired you to pursue a career in the nonprofit or think tank space, and how did you get your start in that?
I guess I'll go first. Hi, I'm Holly McKenna. I'm with the International Center of the Capital Region, which is been around for almost 70 years. We're based at Hudson Valley Community College. I'm also an adjunct professor at UAlbany in journalism and communication. That kind of plays into some of my discussion later about ways to work with organizations like mine. But we started out as an organization that helped immigrants and refugees, and we've kept that role in terms of not doing direct support, but we encourage community engagement with those groups. But we also welcome international emerging leaders, and we have a lot of internship opportunities, which I'll talk about later too. And as far as how I got involved in it, through a friend, she introduced me to it. I'd never heard of it. Having lived in Albany for almost 37 years and a journalist, I was really shocked that I had never heard of it. And never had any opportunity to engage with it. So now we've been working there, and then eventually, when I retire, I'd love to, connect with it as a volunteer, and that's another way that people get involved with us as volunteers.
I can go next. Totally fine. Hi, my name is Drea Cherry. I am the artistic administrator at the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. If you haven't heard of us, we are a music venue in Saratoga Springs. We have a 5,000-seat amphitheater that we operate in the summer, plus a 500-seat little theater that we use year-round for programming on a slightly smaller scale. We are the summer home of the New York City Ballet, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, along with a lot of other traveling and visiting artists who we get to present. It's a little bit confusing, so I'll say this at the front. We are not the same as Live Nation, so you know that there are Live Nation shows here, the rock and pop acts. They come in and they use the venue, but that's not the programming I work on. I work on the classical dance and jazz side. For me, I grew up as a musician. It is what I did with my family, with my sister, but I knew I didn't want to play professionally. And finding the whole arts administration, arts management in a nonprofit space was really transformative for me to figure out there are ways to engage with art, with museums, with performance without playing. And that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, and I'm Dina Refke. I am Executive Director of the Center for Women in Government and Civil Society. It's a unit of Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy. I also wear another hat. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Immigrant Integration and Policy at the Rockefeller Institute of Government, and have been the center director since 2009, institute director since 2022. I do the institute work as a part-time. The Center for Women in Government and Civil Society is a research and education center that focuses on advancing gender equity. I also am clinical associate professor at the Department of Public Administration and Policy at Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy, and affiliated faculty Policy with the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies. And I'm a double graduate of UAlbany. And my role as executive director really allows me to do a wide range of responsibilities like strategic planning, visioning, program development, program implementation, fundraising, which we'll talk a lot about. I apologize. Please forgive me. What we do is really provide research and education, and my role is encompasses administration and management, resource development, stakeholder engagement, all of the what it takes to really make what we do the best it can be. Let's stop here.
Thank you, ladies. So what would you say are some unique challenges, but also rewards that you've experienced working in your current role and organization? Again, whoever wants to kick it off.
Yeah, I can give it a shot at that. So as at the Center for Women in Government and Civil Society, and also at the Institute on Immigrant Integration, we do focus on inspiring system change and generating knowledge that eliminates disparities. And our work really, it tries to change realities on the ground by filling the pipelines of women's leadership. And so our work is mission and values driven. Some of the challenges that we face are really obviously, notwithstanding what is happening today with the attempt to erase diversity, equity, and inclusion work, but the challenges have always been that we function as a nonprofit organization despite being a part of the university, in the sense that we have to raise our own funds. So in addition for implementing the program, you are constantly making sure that these programs are sustained fiscally, and that you are advancing new programs that address the agenda that you have, the strategic vision and the strategic mission you have. So it's definitely not a 9-to-5 job, and that can be challenging. It's hard work, but the most satisfying work anyone can do. Despite challenges and rewards, and the rewards part of it is really there are a lot of strengths in working with the nonprofit sector. The work attracts the best of humanity, the best of human being. At times when individual interests and the interests of the 1% is amplified and aggressively pursued, it is really important to hold on to people and the work that is focused on advancing the interests of the 99%. And so it is incredibly rewarding to do so.
I'd like to reiterate that in terms of, personally, just to spin off on a different kind of motivation for this work, is that you really get to do a lot of things. You be a leader in terms of innovation, coming up with ideas and being creative, that it doesn't have to go through a massive pipeline of people to actually get implemented, like a corporation. And you have a board typically that you work with, and you get to do a lot of things that basically the board oftentimes is looking for you to create programs and ideas to implement. And that you get to be the person that gets to do all that. So and they kind of sign off it to continue. And so that's for me, it's been great, because I've worked in a lot of different sectors in my life, and it's been amazing. But to that point, there's also a lot of responsibility, and sometimes the days. I mean, I was executive director of ICCR for about 1.5 years by myself, and with the help of students from Rockefeller College and some other colleges as interns, but I did a lot of the work myself, and it was truly exhausting. So we have changed the model, and now there's 2 people. I moved over to program manager, and we have an executive director. So she focuses on communication and fundraising, and the board, and then I'm working on the program managed side, which is really a job unto itself. Bringing groups here, proposals that we work on with our students that we submit. So we kind of share the workload, so it's not as heavy a lift as just having one person. I was also in 3 years, I've had 3 different jobs. Community engagement, and we were kind of doing, a mixture of fundraising and community engagement and working with volunteers and members. So the organization keeps evolving in terms of the staff's work, and just trying to, because we've gone through 10 different directors in the last 15 years, and that's not sustainable. Dr. Efke mentioned the fundraising aspect of things, that can be all consuming. And now with the fact that we are actually, half our budget is from the federal government. So we are getting some small grants, but the groups that we bring in bring us their points. Each person is considered a point, and then each project. And we are not hosting our first group until May of this year. So we are way behind. And this is whatever we do this year counts for the money we get next year. So my organization is already in a panic mode. Okay, we need to really think about what we're going to do next year. So that's some of the advantages and disadvantages of a small place versus a big place. But again, the work is incredibly rewarding, and you really get to see very quickly the impact that it's making in the community, as opposed to waiting for something to come out, slow and steady, kind of wins the race. That you really get to, you have an event, you have a program, and it's making connections, and things are happening. So it's exciting work, but it can lead to a lot of burnout, unfortunately. So if you're not smart about it.
Well said.
Thanks.
I think at the heart of what we do at SPAC and in this arts lens of nonprofit is it's about connection, right? It's connection of our audiences to the performers, our community to each other, people to planet, people to education, and maybe the elephant in the room still, I don't know if this still counts, but one of the biggest challenges we've had recently has been navigating through COVID, and a time where what we do relies on forming those connections. To not be able to have people in audiences, to not be able to see each other face to face was really hard in the arts field. It's hard for performers, it was hard for organizations. Something that came out of that, though, if we can say there's a silver lining, is different ways of finding and fostering that connections, finding different ways to make sure we're still accessible if you are not in our doors. So our education team has a whole learning library online, and that is a project that came out of COVID, and a need to continue to teach, continue to share knowledge. So for me, one of the most rewarding parts of being in this industry is being surrounded by people who will find a way through those challenges. It's a lot of creatives, a lot of ideas, and to be able to say, okay, does this fit the mission? Is this what we're trying to do? If we can't do it the way we always have, how do we innovate? And that has been very exciting to be a part of. Even now, we're post-COVID, if you will, I'm still finding different ways to connect in a changing world. It is not the same that it was in 2019. The art has to adapt to the people and to the community, and finding ways to make that happen is very exciting. No day is the same.
I can only imagine. Yeah. So moving on to our next question, how do you see the nonprofit and think tank sectors evolving in terms of what opportunities might exist for early career professionals?
I can start if you want. Something that I think is very interesting is, in my experience, the arts nonprofits are occasionally a little bit behind on technology and data. It is something that has just been harder to catch up on. So for me, coming out of my master's degree, it was very important to be able to have an eye on how these things can help us. Where you may feel intrinsically that the art is valuable, you need to be able to make that pitch for funding. You need to be able to show the economic impact, and finding ways to do that in a creative way, in a way that makes sense to not just the performer saying, yeah, we know, but to communicate that has been helpful. And also people who are able to take a look at processes. Again, there's a lot that is steeped in how we've always done this. Resources have always been a challenge, and sometimes it's harder to pivot. But especially I think for younger people looking to start in the industry, if you are able to come in with those ideas, that's incredibly valuable. And being able to stay curious, I think, is also really important entering in the field.
Yeah, and I can also echo that nonprofit sector is going to always be part of our society. It's really an integral part of a democratic society. So it will always be there because it does fill the gap between government and the people. And the sector is very diverse. It's without the many organizations that provide these critical social services, hold government accountables, and make advocacy and push for public policy that is responsive, you can't have a well-functioning society. So yes, it's always going to be there. There are always plenty of opportunities for early career professionals in the sector. And they make the best policymakers, the best policy implementers. Those people who work on the front line are the people who make the best leaders in public policy and in policy implementation, because they've seen, they experience the problems on the front line, and they understand what solutions work and what solutions don't work. Some of the worst policy makers and policy implementers are those who haven't been exposed to these problems firsthand. So how it's evolving, I'm really hoping that some of the challenges we are experiencing with funding cuts and rollback on some of the work that is very deeply connected to social justice issues and equity is going to really look at each other and try to collaborate and partner. And a point that Drea made, be innovative and creative in filling those gaps and trying to partner instead of having this cottage cheese landscape of nonprofits. We'll have more unity, more people organizations coming together, partnering, collaborating, and not reinventing the wheel and creating more organizations, but creating bigger and stronger organizations.
Yeah, it's really unique to America. Nonprofits, I mean, we've been kind of a model. What's interesting too is through my work, I've learned about local organizations, nonprofits that have international connections, and that's been really great. So when we have these international leaders come, they meet with groups like the Mooncatcher Project. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. That was locally started, has people in 40 countries now. And we actually had one of our visitors come, and she loved it so much that she created something like this for her in her country of Mozambique. So it's not only just what we do here, it's what the impact that we can have in the world. And that's really exciting. And I could see that growing in terms of, our world is much more a smaller world, global world. People are traveling, and, there's just so much sharing of information with the internet that this just, I totally agree that this is just going to get, because it's a smaller model, it can move faster, it can be more flexible than a government or a corporation, that they can pivot much easier than other institutions in our society, but very, very crucial. One thing in particular is getting people to, volunteer. That's kind of a novel thing in the world because it's a product of a wealthy society. I mean, people are usually too busy trying to put food on the table in other countries that the idea of volunteering for a nonprofit is pretty foreign to a lot of people that I've encountered through my job. And but then once they find out, they're like, this is awesome that people give up their time for nothing, and it's like, no, and it's so rewarding. And that's the same with working a nonprofit, that you may not make the big six figures, but you're making a difference in people's lives, and you're personally satisfied by the work that you do. So there's just, especially early students graduating from college, I mean, doing internships, volunteering with organizations like this, there's just so much room for growth, I think, as an individual, professionally too, to actually make a living doing this. But, different expectations than if you're going into the government or corporate world. But it is a very important part of a democratic society to have nonprofits. We are a major, and in this area alone, we're very fortunate. We have so many nonprofits, and even excluding the ones that have local ones that have international connections. But it's just been, and a lot of my neighbors, they are all working for a nonprofit in some way or another, and that's always like, and they're the nicest. I live in Albany, and they're the greatest people because they're not motivated by money. They're motivated by a mission, a passion for helping other people, whether it's people with disabilities or health, mental health, or whatever it is. So that's people with lawyers and doctors, people with really nice, great degrees, but they don't want to make gobs of money. They want to make a difference in people's lives. And that's just, it's really fundamental to the work that we do in nonprofits.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to go to this next question. You guys have all touched on this, it seems, so far, and it's obviously very relevant and current topic, but obviously with the new presidential transition, some of you have already touched on some shifts or anticipated changes, but I'm wondering if you can elaborate on any of those shifts or changes that you've noticed that could affect the work in the nonprofit or think tank sector, and what advice would you give to students entering the field during this time of change, you know?
I can start. Obviously, we are facing unprecedented challenge that really is threatening our ability to perform our work. This new administration is challenging constitutional rights that are cornerstone of a democratic society, the right to free speech, the right to freedom of assembly, freedom of association, which are really foundations of civil society. And of course, the funding is, you can't run a nonprofit without funding, and cutting funding is really spelling disaster for many nonprofits. That overnight, basically, if you're talking about refugee resettlement agencies, overnight they were told to stop working. And so funding also that sustains research from the federal government to support a social justice worldview is being cut off. All we're hearing is really the market justice orientation of the federal government, and it's threatening to wipe out the social justice orientation. We're asked to refrain from using keywords where there are a huge body of research that are really surrounding these issues and research questions that we cared about. So what I would advise if you ascribe to a world where there is a balance between these two worldviews, that you fight for the restoration of that balance and do not succumb to despair and resignation. That is very hard and easy to say, but it really is important to keep fighting and hope that the pendulum will swing back.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely in a tough phase, and you know, I think more people are going to have to step up. I was with WMHT, a local PBS station, yesterday, and they only get 17% of their funding from the federal government, so they have other sources. But you know, just the corporations are going to have to be more generous. Individuals are going to have to be more generous. People are going to have to volunteer for things as opposed to just getting paid for work. And, you know, we have a lot of people that have retired since COVID, speaking of COVID, that are looking for stuff to do. And then maybe that's, you know, more of I know we do have volunteer corps and things like that in our society, but, you know, we are an inventive, creative country. And, you know, we just always figure out a way to work. The big workaround is what I call it. And, you know, a lot of people are sitting home. I have friends sitting home like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm like, well, volunteer. They need help. Something got cut and they don't have the staff. So you have the knowledge, you know, let's get you in there and help out. So it's just, you know, I love what you said in terms of don't lose hope. And that's so true, because there's always going to be, you know, ebbs and flows and changes and things. And, you know, we just want to be able to, as a society, to keep that, you know, that flame alive. That it's, you know, there's a challenge, but we're not going to get, you know, to succumb and close up shop. I mean, our organization, I said 70 years. I mean, we exist to run these programs. I don't imagine, I don't know how it's going to go. We bring in 100 visitors a year through these programs, 5,000 nationally, these other organizations like myself. And so maybe I don't think it'll go away. It's been around for some of these for 85 years. They've been through many administrations, including the current one, and they have been able to, you know, always make it work. But, you know, maybe it'll come back in a smaller form. You know, that's the other thing too. And then, you know, something else will replace it. But, you know, it is just kind of, you gotta like, okay, well, let's figure out how to work around this and make it and continue to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, funding, it's all funding is the hardest problem. I shouldn't say hardest, one of the many problems. But I think what Dina mentioned of what we do in a nonprofit space is integral to society. And I think remembering that what you do is important. And if you have to at times put your head down to do the work, just put your head down and do the work. There are ways to continue to fight. And I think it's exciting to know that you're a lot of the times in this type of space, you're in a community of people who care, people who you are not alone in the work you're doing. And I think it's, for me at least, helpful to see here is everybody else who is going to keep doing the work because what we do matters and what we do is important.
Absolutely. Shifting gears a little bit to, students and how they can prepare themselves for opportunities in this field. What skills or experiences have been most valuable to your career growth, and what would you recommend students focus on building now?
I think for me, having a diverse pool of experience to come from, I had internships at a variety of different organizations. I had summer positions. I ran a database for a few years. I was at different performing arts groups in different places. Being able to kind of hone in on what it is you care about and where and why. And for me, I figured that out through trying different opportunities. I think you're not going to have a bad internships. Even if you don't love what you're working on, you learn that okay, that's not for me, but you still will gain valuable skills from that. The other thing that I think is a long battle, and I'm still working on this, is just learning how to communicate. And it's a shift, and sometimes it is hard in a professional space, but just every interaction you have, when things don't go well, and sometimes things won't go well, think about why and kind of focus on how do I make this clearer next time? For me, making the transition from student to professional, that was one of the big things to just switch in my head.
Absolutely. Yeah, experiences I totally agree. In terms of trying new things and never say no to anything. My friends always laugh at me. I'm like a boat in the, I do have oars, so I am directing myself, but I'm like, okay, the water's taking me here. Let me try this. I lost 3 jobs in 5 years because of COVID. Uh, 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 I worked for the state senate and there was a leadership change, so I lost that job. And then another job, I wasn't up to their standards of working 12 hours a day, literally like a slave. And so had them fire me. I was just like, I want something better. This is just too demanding. So then that's how I got this job. And when I got into it, and it just, loving the experience, the international experience, always liked international things, always gravitated toward anything international. So it was a perfect fit. I'm also the internship director at UAlbany for journalism and English, and I love to encourage students to try those internships, and we have flexibility in our schedule, in student schedules, make it so that they can do one in their major, their minor, they could do one at the university level and get university credit, to try different things. And say, and then obviously volunteer, you can get credit for that to volunteer, whether it's student media or doing, something in the community that you can get college credit for. And those are the kind of things that just really, really help make it so. And just, you just never know until you try it if you're going to like that. I mean, you might think, oh, I want to be this, work in a TV station or something, and then you get there and you realize, oh gosh, this is not my environment. This is too crazy, or it's just, too technical. I want to be in another kind of place. So being able to try those kind of things out for sure. And then the people that you meet, being interested in talking to people that are doing it. What's it like? One of the big things I tell my interns, people from UAlbany that I have in our program and from Rockefeller is like, do you get a chance to do staff development? Is there any kind of professional development? I've been at UAlbany for 18 years and I have never really had any opportunity. At ICCR, I've had 5 opportunities in 3 years. Three were in Washington, meeting with people from the U.S. State Department, and then one was in Chicago and one was in Washington. Through New York City, working with people through the State Department, and it was just a mind-blowing experience. And it's something I impart to my students all the time. It's like when you're in an interview for anything, say, what kind of professional development do you have for me? And then if people sit there and are like, well, we don't really have any, then maybe you should go somewhere else if that's important to you. Some people, it's not something they choose, but the staff development thing, professional development has been a very big experience for me as a professional to really grow in my work. So it's something I encourage my students to do.
Yeah, and I echo everything that Holly and Drea have said. You really captured it all. I'm just going to add one, not necessarily a skill, but a mindset that had helped me a lot in my career is that growth mindset. Telling yourself that just because I don't know something right now doesn't mean that I cannot go out and learn it and independently become competent at it. There is nothing that I cannot learn or teach myself to do. You're all independent learners when you get to this level. So stay away from that fixed mindset that I don't know this and I cannot know it. Information and knowledge really is at your fingertips now. I taught myself a lot of skills, and if I had a fixed mindset, I would never be where I am. So you have knowledge, you haven't been, if you've been a student during my time, when I was a student, we used to spend hours and hours in a dull, dark basement to look into periodicals and teach ourselves how to do something and teach ourselves new skills. But you have Coursera, you have information at your fingertips. So use that and develop that growth mindset that I may not know it yet, but I can go out and earn this competency independently. I don't need any hand holding.
Yeah. No, and also, and I mean, that's the thing too. It's like people think, oh, someone who's more a mature professional, oh, they know everything. I was like, are you kidding? I am constantly learning. I never did a film taping before at WMHT. Luckily, someone else was kind of leading the whole thing, but we had to do a whole thing. And I was like, so we needed a script. I got the photos all together, and then watching the people around us, like, okay, and this is what you need to do. And it's like, whoa. I mean, it was fun. It was exciting. And but again, it was like, I didn't know how to do this. So that's the other thing. It's just like that mindset, that growth mindset, it carries you till you die, really. If you're somebody who's open-minded and willing to say, well, okay, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. I'm kind of nervous about it, but I don't care. I'm gonna learn. I'll make mistakes. I'll have people there helping me, hopefully, so I don't fall off the edge or embarrass myself. And it's fun. It's like, and that's so good for your brain waves, in this life that we worry about people's memory loss. Some of the big things they constantly keep saying is like, make sure you're trying new things and getting your dendrites to expand their horizons, so they don't get all brittle, and it's fun, it's really fun. And we live in a society and a world now where there's so much opportunity, especially internet and organizations, and that starts with getting involved with them. For starters, in your own, wherever you end up living, if it's Albany or if it's, where your hometown, look up things and see what, if it's based on the interest. If you're interested in the arts, you're interested in international affairs, there's something for everybody in every city in America, or every town. There's something, or nearby town that you can connect with, and it's always been so rewarding. So.
No, I couldn't agree more with you ladies on the growth mindset and all of that. I mean, I'm consistently involved in professional development as well. And you surprise yourself what you continue to learn even after doing it for so many years. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Some of the more impactful experiences too. So we'll wrap it up with one more question and then we'll open it up to the students. So what advice would you give students who are unsure where they fit within the kind of the broad world of mission-driven work? That's a broad question, but
yeah, I think that this sector is, as Holly and Andrea have alluded, is really mission-driven. As you framed it, Ashley, it's mission-driven. So do not check your values at the door. Just because certain values may no longer be popular and are under attack, that does not mean you cannot hold on to them. They are what make you who you are. You are attracted to this sector because of this value and mission-driven work. So double down on them, do not give up. There's nothing more fulfilling than pursuing a purpose larger than yourself. And I would say invest in your development. It's an investment in yourself. Work on learning as much as you can and filling the gaps and skills that you have. They are at your fingertips again. Your job description is to really make sure that the outcome is the best that you can have it. So people recognize you when you work hard, not the 25 hours that Talia alluded to, but work hard, but also take care of yourself. And when you care for the organization and when you have passion for the work that you do and the outcome of the work, if you do this, you will go far. And really, I would say love what you do and do what you love.
I don't know who wants to go next.
Go ahead, Joya. Why don't you go?
I love that. I actually wrote down in my notes, don't check your values at the door, because I think that's a great thing to remember. So thank you. I think you have to find, as everybody's mentioned, we're not in this for the money. I mean, you can have skills that are valuable anywhere. So find what it is that makes you excited about what you do. And that can change. At one point you can be, I'm really passionate about, I don't know, environmental protection. And they go, okay, actually, I want to work on the arts. I want to work in education. There are so many realms to go in this space that figure out what it is that makes you excited. And I say, think about, do you need to be on the ground doing the work? Or would you feel that sense of fulfillment in our marketing department, figuring out how to communicate these ideas? Like, we need an IT person. There are so many different ways you can be involved in a mission-driven system. And they all look a little bit different. So you can work towards what your strengths are. If you are a technology person, you want to run the database that's tracking all the donations. That is an integral part to what any nonprofit is doing. Somebody needs to figure that out. So just finding what it is that gives you that sense of accomplishment, that makes you feel like you're contributing, because there are so many different ways. There's not a timeline. It can be some starting on one side of the coin and then switch over and go, actually, I can be more impactful if I'm working with journalists and finding our press. There's so many avenues that don't be afraid to try something and be like, okay, we're going to shift a little bit and look someplace else.
Absolutely. And also, you in your lifetime, you can decide, I'm going to move around. I want to try different nonprofits and different sectors that I want to be a part of. I was involved with the Albany Public Library as a volunteer. I was on the board, was elected position, and then I was on the foundation helping raise money. And my journalism helped me with that because I wasn't afraid to ask people for money. I wasn't afraid for people to say no. And if someone had told me, and I used to be a very shy person, the fact that someone would tell me that I'd be a teacher in front of, total strangers, semester after semester, and that I'd be asking strangers for money, I would have said absolutely not. But, it comes with confidence, that you're like, okay, all they can do is say no, but a lot of people say yes, and answer my questions, or they give us money. And so I did that for 10 years, and I love that space. I love libraries because they're a very great symbol of a democratic society and giving access to information to everyone, and kind of, the libraries are open to everyone. And then I decided, I wanted to try the international space because I love this, I was very interested in the State Department and the work that they do and other exchange programs. But moving around, trying different things is always, we keep saying that it's a recurring theme here, but it also goes with terms of jobs, like you could try that, you can try different spaces with the nonprofit world, that it doesn't always have to be like, I'm just going to stick with the arts for the rest of my life. That, it's very different. I mean, my dad was in the same job for many, many years. My father-in-law, I've been in, less jobs than my other, other people for a shorter period of time. And then this generation, they're going to be much more mobile, much more flexible. You guys are really going to be trying different things and like, okay, I'm going to try this for a while. Okay, now loving it, I'm moving on. Like my son right now, he wanted a job in sports communication, working for like a college or a team or something, and the jobs weren't there. So he took a job with the state senate. He's doing communication. I don't know if he'll do that forever, but meanwhile, he's in the pension system. He's making good money, and he's learning a ton of skills. So, there's always maybe something else for him. He's only 24. He's a graduate of UAlbany as well. My older son, he studied psychology and anthropology, ended up in veterinary work. Now he's managing a vet hospital and got into the business side of things. Who knew that was coming? You know, so I just love when and I love mentoring young people, because you just never know where you're going to find your passion. And it may be something that lasts for 10 years, your whole lifetime, you know, who knows? And being open again to that mindset that we keep referring to, that you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try something different, you know, just things, just one door closes, another door opens, as they say. And that is, I couldn't agree with that more, because it's just, and it's exciting. And, you know, especially something like you lose your job and you're like, oh, great, now what? You know, it's not the end of the world. It's not like someone's died, you've lost your job. There's another way, there's another avenue. You will reinvent yourself. And that's that's, you know, just constantly what happens in the world. And it's a beautiful thing. It's always a new spring, a new day. It's a new day. Try, you know, give it a try. You know, things, I always believe things don't work out for a reason. You know, the reason that didn't keep going, something else, I was meant to do something else, you know, so.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. It's rewarding work. And, you know, trying out those internships as soon as possible, volunteering as soon as possible, while you're still, have more flexibility with your time, to kind of see what you want to be, what you want to do.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, ladies. I want to give a chance for the students to ask any questions. I didn't see any in the chat, but I want to open the floor. If students have any questions, you can feel free to unmute. Or just, if you prefer to put it in the chat, I'm happy to read it on your behalf. But excellent opportunity to ask these ladies any questions you might have, especially if you're considering a career in these spaces. So are there
I
any?
actually did, just in case someone did ask me actually a question to me
Yeah.
directly,
Yeah.
about the work that I do, grants proposals with students. I can just, well, people are warming up to ask questions. I'll just go ahead and answer that question. And that is, I mean, important work. Like, I have Andrew, who's in our department, Andrew Fleckenstein, who's also head of the student, was it SIA, Student
Yeah,
International
SIA.
Affairs
Yeah,
Association. He's been with us for a year, and he's been working on a ton of stuff. But one of the things he does for me is, we have these proposals that they have to work on, and it's a huge help to me, because this is 400 list of projects that we can actually do. And you have to, we kind of sift through it and kind of look, you know, dates, availability, themes that we could do. So he just did one on disaster and emergency management. Disaster preparedness and emergency management. Well, we have a whole college at U Albany, that's a given, and other things. So he just put a proposal together that gets sent out to, you know, to the powers that be to approve, and hopefully we'll get a group of people based on that topic. So that's important work that they get to do. And this actually, Claudia's asking me a question too. When considering cover letters to work with you, what do you find interesting about it? What allows a cover letter in this field to emerge among others? Your passion, your interest and your passion, definitely. I mean, you know, those kind of things, creating that, you know, marketing yourself as a person that has passion about, I really care about, you know, say you want to, you know, work at, volunteer, or get an internship at the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society, love animals. My family's adopted animals, you know, personal examples of why that's passionate, why you have passion.
I think something else I look for in cover letters too is I want to know why me specifically. Not even necessarily like just this job, but why this organization. Like, if you could apply to anybody, and look, we know you're applying to more than one place, but reading your cover letter, don't want to know that. I want to know that this is the thing you care the most about, and that's gonna kind of show to me that you did your research, and that you're serious about it.
Yeah, I would then really echo that as well. Passion for the work of the organization, passion for the issues that this work represents and advances. We call it fire in the belt. and that is what we look for. The skills are obviously important. It's obviously important to see the story, your story of why you are interested in this work. But it's again very important that we hire people with passion, because again, what we talked about all throughout, the challenges, the need for creativity, the need for persistence, because also the problems that we deal with are persistent problems, and it often takes many, many years to resolve. So if you're the kind of person who is extrinsically motivated, you'll have a lot of burnout and a lot of disillusion with not seeing results right away. But if you have the passion and you can train your mind to look for the milestones and the silver linings, and you have that intrinsic motivation, you're able to withstand all the storms that come with doing that work.
Absolutely. A lot of similarities with education. Excellent. Are there more questions from the students? Feel free to, again, unmute or just put it in the chat. I know it can be a little daunting to ask these questions, but this is definitely a good opportunity to ask any questions you might have regarding this.
Well, I'm just gonna, since it's, a little quiet here. Grants, I avoided grants for my whole life. I mean, like, I didn't like, oh, grant writers, working on grants, the big ugly grant word. And well, guess what? When this job, I do nothing but I do nothing, not nothing, but I do a lot of grant writing. And some of it's easier than others. I'm working on a state Senate grant right now that is just a bear. We had gotten money, we never got money. We have to, it's a reimbursable grant, so we have to spend the money to get the money. And oh my gosh, my husband, who worked for the Senate for 30 years, was like, I don't know how to help you fill this out. And he did, but it came back with a lot of problems from trying to fix it. But it's just like, again, to the fact that we're none of us are born knowing how to do this. We learn it. We talk to people that know how to do it. I have a new board member, and it's like he's been a blessing in so many ways. He's like, oh, I know how to do this, Holly. I will help you get through this. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, literally, it sits on my desk going, work on the state Senate grant. And I'm like, it's a nightmare. And I'm like, oh, it's one thing that's not getting done. And now I feel like we're almost there. So we can submit it and hopefully get reimbursed within a reasonable amount of time as we lose funding. But when it comes to things like that it's like there's people to help you along the way in so many ways. No matter where you are, if you're at the, even at the top, and you look at CEOs that made it to the top, they have a whole staff, they have people that are helping them the whole time. They're not doing things alone. And that is so, so key. But the grant thing for me was just like a nightmare. But, there's plenty of, they have workshops, just again, always looking for ways to learn new things. And just say, okay, I'm not going to be afraid of this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to start working on this. And as I said, because I always had other people having to, whether it was at the library, we had a whole staff of people that worked on grants. Never really I had to sign off on them. I had to review them, edit them, but I didn't actually have to put them together. And Drea, I'm sure you have had your experience with grants, but you'll hear that word all the time, grant, grant, grant. And that's, what does that mean? So.
Dre, do you want to chat a little bit about your experience with grants, if that's of relevance, or
Sure.
anything you want to add?
Yeah, I in my current role don't have to work with it too much, but it's one of those things, again, I think it comes back to knowing how to communicate. Grants can be scary and hard, and you have to remember that you're submitting a lot of them, and they're not all gonna get you funded. And I think that's a challenging thing to feel, is when you put your heart and soul into an organization, and you know what you do is important. If you're like, why don't they see that it's important? And I think for me, realizing it's like, no, there's just a lot of people doing important work. But being able to communicate and tell the story of why what you do matters, it might feel very obvious to you. But I always just you want to think of the frame of reference of like the people you are applying to, pretend they don't know what you do at all. And that kind of helps, like, how can I succinctly give a full picture of this? And always say your thank yous.
Yeah. Absolutely. Always say your thank yous. And event grant writing is a lot easier because you have an event and people are more likely to send that to, to support that. And some of it can be very formulaic too, which is nice. So it's not like it's not this heavy lift. But it's really interesting having worked on different grants. We actually had a student last semester who came up with she was an intern for us, and she put together a whole spreadsheet talking about databases and stuff of all the philanthropic organizations that we could go after as an organization to get funding. So a lot of stuff we don't apply for, we don't really, we can't apply for, it's not applicable to us, but it was good to have, it was a good exercise because someone had said, oh, well, okay, well, federal funding might be going away. State funding, can't really ask the state. And I'm like, okay, well, how do, corporations, that's always hard to get in the door. So again, trying to be creative and persistent, all the adjectives we've been using on this call, and just trying different avenues, that you just you're never giving up. You're like, okay, well, that didn't work out. Let's try this and let's try this and let's try that. And having people, like, it's really good with nonprofits. Boards are very key. In terms of your sustainability, because they're people with legal skills, financial skills, accounting skills, fundraising skills, communication skills. Actually, our new executive director was a board member, and now she's running the show, and she's great at communication. So it's so many of these kind of things. Getting on boards, become a member of a board, is an awesome opportunity. Some places have junior boards for young people to be part of. To get experience with that this is how nonprofits are governed. They're very democratic because you make decisions. We have 15 people on our board, and we have board meetings on Zoom, and so we have a whole decorum, how you behave on a call, and things like that, and committee work that you do. So but that's a great way to kind of, and I was a board member at my school at Children's little Catholic school down the street. That was my first experience, but I was already in my 40s, and I was learning about board work. So the earlier you can learn about that, but that is something, and especially being on a board, and then if you work for a nonprofit that has a board, you know how to deal with the board, and that's a great skill to have too. So, but it's there's a whole book, Robert's Rules, how to become a good board member, how to run board meetings, things like that, which may sound boring, but it's really kind of how things work. And they're ultimately responsible for the organization, not the staff. It's really the board of trustees or board of directors. And that's interesting work itself. That turns a lot of people off. But to me, I love it. I think it's great. It's so democratic, and I love making decisions with other people and ideas that come together when you're collaborating as a board member. And I was president of a few boards over the years, and that was great to kind of, like, in a way, herding cats. But you look at the importance of boards, and sometimes board members are just there for socialization, or it looks good on their resume. But if they're really involved with nonprofits, they're people that really care, so, and that's always, reassuring, like, well, it's not just me that cares, it's all these people on our board. So.
Absolutely. We do have one in the chat. So I'll go to that one, and then we might have time for maybe one more after that. So Ashley asks, what are some common challenges students face specifically in international nonprofits? Are specific university resources that can help me look for good international international opportunities?
Well, I mean, there's definitely there's a center of international, what's it called? Global Strategy at UAlbany. They have like a major, like 7 or 8 divisions of anything related to international experiences, whether it's internships, study abroad, things like that. That would be a good start. Ashley, you know what I'm talking about. My good friend of mine, Annette Ritchie, works there. I was amazed. I had really no idea how vast it was. And of course, there's, international students that come here, but that's another whole international student services. That's a whole different aspect. But again, they might have volunteer opportunities as well, which would be great to assist international students that are here with whatever they need. So, yeah, I always mess up the title. Let me see if I can find it.
Now, is it the Center for Global Health? Is that? The one you're,
Um, no, it's, oh gosh, let me find it.
Yeah.
Global, no, I used to do work with that one too, the Global Health Fund, Global
while you're looking for
Strategy,
that, I was gonna say, go ahead. Yeah,
I think it's called.
yeah, global
have-
strategy, something.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, so that's why I never can say it off the top of my head.
We have a
Um,
question here for Dina, so I can pull it over to her while you're looking for that, Holly.
yes.
Patricia asks, I wanted to ask Dina a question regarding educational policy efforts with women in politics.
Yes, sure, Patricia. So we at the Center for Women in Government and Society have two programs currently within the Women's Leadership Academy. They are the Fellowship on Women in Public Policy and the New Leadership New York. The Fellowship on Women in Public Policy is a 6-month program that starts in January and ends the end of June. And it is really used by our fellows as a springboard to either the nonprofit sector, the state agency world, the executive branch, or the legislative branch. And I would really urge you, if you are interested in doing education around specifically related to women in leadership and public policy leadership, public service leadership, to look at that program, the Fellowship on Women Public Policy or the New Leadership. The New Leadership is more of an undergrad program, but the fellowship is for mid-level career professionals as well as graduate students. The recruitment or the door for applications open in June. So we really urge you to look into it and use it as a way of really getting into this work, because a lot of our fellows really end up working for the government or for the nonprofit sector doing work related to public policy affecting women and their families. I don't know if that answers your question, but please feel free to ask any follow-up.
Hi, yes, I just unmuted. I was on the video for a moment, but thank you very much for that. That did help me just to understand more about the timing and the applications. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And it's a great fellowship opportunity. We've had plenty of Rockefeller students in that one you're mentioning, Dina. So
Absolutely.
couldn't agree more, having encouraging students to take a look at it. It's a great program. So
Thank you.
So any final, it looks like Holly put in the chat the name of the office.
Yeah, and I can also provide you, Ashley, with the spreadsheet that we have. Actually, it's from Dr. Susan Appe from your college.
Yeah.
And that listed all the, because that's her research field is local nonprofits with international connections. So she's given us permission to share it. So, but those are, an easy way to get involved with, go through the list and see what kind of organization locally that you'd like to get involved with and volunteer. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be sending a follow-up email to the students who participated and registered. So we'll make sure to include this in that communication as well. So any final questions for the panelists? We can maybe take one more. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start to close out the session. But if there's one more question. Something in the chat, I'm just making sure. Okay. So I've had a few students ask like how they can get in touch with panelists after the fact, or if they can, like what would be the best way for students to touch base with you ladies if that was something you were open to, and it's something we can certainly relate to them as well. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Dina.
Yes, please feel free to reach out anytime.
Yes.
We're here to serve you. So you are our constituents. Please do reach out.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is, I mean,
Feel free to email.
Ashley, you have my email, so that,
I was gonna say,
definitely.
we'll include
just
it as
email.
well. Yeah, in the follow-up email, but thank you
got
so much, ladies. We appreciate, your openness to that too. And I just want to say thank you to everyone, particularly our panelists, for coming and sharing your insights and, your experience and your vast knowledge and working in these realms within, nonprofits and think tanks. I think they're great opportunities for students, and I love being able to bring them to the forefront for students for them to understand what's out there and what they can accomplish in this field. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the students for being here as well. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and